Maybe I'm jumping the gun, given there have been just a handful of rain-affected matches between Sri Lanka and New Zealand since the latest changes to the ICC playing conditions for one-day internationals took effect. But on the evidence of what I've seen so far, I'm already liking one change in particular, that amendment which states that during non-power play overs, only 4 rather than the previous 5 fielders are allowed outside the 30-yard circle. What that means is one less fielder on the boundary, and on that basis it's easy to portray it as another decision by the ICC loaded in favour of batsmen, with bowlers now shorn of extra protection in the deep. But is it really a hammer blow against bowlers after all, and against spinners in particular, as some might imagine? Certainly, on the evidence of those Sri Lanka-New Zealand matches, the answer appears to be no, quite the opposite in fact. The change means 2 significant shifts from what was previously the status quo. First, by forcing the bowling side to have an extra fielder inside the circle, it reduces the opportunity for batsmen simply to milk the opposition bowling with little or no risk. The safety first, nudge it into the gaps mentality, so common in the dull middle overs of a one-day international, will now have to give way to a more positive, innovative and aggressive approach from the batting team. The rewards for that approach are significant, with one less fielder on the fence, but so are the potential benefits for a bowling side as, prompted by batsmen looking to take greater risks, there's also the increased potential for wickets to fall too. It looks like a nice balance to me. But does the reduction of cover on the boundary mean the death of spinners? Again, it's early days, but I think the answer has to be no. The same question was asked as 2020 cricket began to flourish, as initial thoughts were that slow men faced with shorter boundaries and bigger flailing bats would become cannon fodder in the shortest form of the game. The reality has been very different, however, with pace off the ball very much a key component of success in 2020, and with the new field restrictions in play for the one-day internationals, the same may well be true in that format too. Certainly in the ODIs in Sri Lanka, spinners Rangana Herath and Jivan Mendis were among the most effective bowlers on either side, and they appeared to have no difficulty at all in adapting to the new changes. The truth of the matter is that the best bowlers, the most positive ones, have always thrived when opposition batsmen have looked to get after them. England's Darren Gough, for example, always used to tell me he loved bowling at the death because although there was the potential to go for a few runs, there was also an increased likelihood of picking up wickets as batsmen looked to be more expansive. The same could well be true with these new regulations. So yes, it is early days in the life of these changes, and we know from experience that the best laid plans around the ICC table don't always translate very well once they're turned into reality. For example, does anyone remember the flirtation with the super sub? Also, we'll have a much better idea of how the new conditions are working once we reach the end of January, by which time most international teams will have played under them in a wide variety of conditions. But for what it's worth, first impressions for me at least are favourable. And if that change, along with the others that have been implemented, including the allowance for 2 bouncers per over, can enhance a format that's rich with the tradition of 10 World Cups and more than 40 years of action, facing, as it is, a very real threat of being squeezed out by the rise of 2020, then that has to be a very good thing indeed.